Hey everybody, my name is Seryna Myers. I'm a spiritual teacher who helps the helpers, the healers, and the high achievers activate their intuition and use it in their life and their leadership. And today I just had somebody jump in my DMs on Instagram about a post that I wrote, I think it was last week, about the first fire ceremony that I did. And so she said, can you teach me this? And rather than typing for 4 hours with my thumbs, I figured I would pop on here because I know she's not the only one who's wondering about this, and share a little bit about what was involved and how I came up with it and the whole shebang. So here's a tiny bit of context. At the time, I was dating this like ultra creepy dude. That's really what it comes down to. He was a psychic. He was able to astrally project. And even though we were broken up, he was a lurker. So I would be in my house. I could feel him watching me. And you know, when you're with somebody, like you get to know their energy. So it wasn't that it was like some random ghost that showed up or whatever. I was very clear that it was his mojo that was in my home. Now, I was the kind of kid, and I'm talking about like when I'm like 20 here, but before that, I was the kind of kid who would like read things in books and then try to do them. So I actually was trying to do astral projection and failed when I was 11 because I read about it in a science fiction book. And I don't know where the origin of this fire ceremony came from. It wasn't from some kind of a lineage. It wasn't something I was taught. It was just something I inherently knew how to do. So if you're somebody who has done, like some shamanic trainings or whatever, you're definitely going to have a different approach to this. I'm just going to let you know what my heart called me to do and what I've been doing for the last 20 years ever since. So, I knew that it wasn't just about banishing, like this ceremony was not specifically about banishing him, but it was about like really like what I would now describe as like cutting the cords and creating some separation between our energies because we were very entangled. At the time there, it was more, I just wanted to release the stuff from the relationship that wasn't so good and keep the good stuff so that I could remember it fondly. There wasn't that much good stuff, but in other relationships where I've done this practice, there were good things that I wanted to keep. So it wasn't about like throwing the baby out with the bathwater. I really wanted to make sure that my heart could hold on to the stuff that was beneficial from a relationship and everything else would go. So that was kind of the principle. So I lived in a basement suite and I headed outside, and obviously like I didn't have a cauldron. I didn't have any materials. I had no idea what I was doing. This was just something my heart said to do. So I went outside with white paper, and it felt really important that it wasn't lined and that it wasn't another color. And on it, I wrote his name on one side, and then I flipped it over, and then on the other side, I wrote one emotion that I wanted to release myself from. And so I had this little pile of papers, each of them had his name on the one side, flip it over, and it had whatever that emotion was that I wanted to let go of. And again, I wanted to keep the good stuff. I didn't want to just chuck them all out. I really wanted to be able to say, this is the stuff that I'm really fond of. I want to hold on to and remember, and everything else has to go. And this is when I discovered how powerfully transmutative fire is. I had no idea before this. So because I didn't have a fireplace, I didn't have a cauldron or a fire pit, I had a little pile of dirt in my backyard under a tree. I had a little metal bowl. I had a bottle of water to make sure that if things got out of control, I was okay. And I had some matches. And so I lit a little fire and I held each paper up, and I was very intentional. I didn't really know the power of what I was doing. I didn't understand I was creating a ritual that I would then do for 20 years later. This was just this call I was answering within myself. So I would hold up this piece of paper and I would say, by burning this paper, I want to release myself of the resentment I feel towards creepy ex-boyfriend. And then I would hold it to my heart and I would really feel that energy. I would like tune into almost like the vibration of the resentment or whatever it was I was holding on to. I would kind of like imprint it on this piece of paper. And when I knew that that was done, because it was just like a sense of like, yeah, okay, then I would burn it and I would watch it burn. And I didn't rush the process. I didn't try to, jump to the next thing. It was very intentional, very slow, and very mindful. And once that was done and I felt like, that is completed, I'd pick up the next paper. And I would say, by burning this paper, I release myself of the jealousy I felt towards creepy ex-boyfriend. Hold it to my heart, really tune into that feeling of jealousy and how uncomfortable it was, and basically imprint that energy onto this little piece of paper. And then when it was done, set it on fire. So you do this as many times as possible or as required. There would be times where in other fire ceremonies where there were emotions that when I was doing my initial kind of brain dump on those little pieces of paper that I missed. I just missed things. I didn't, because especially when things are in heightened states of emotion, you don't always remember all of it at once. And so in those cases, sometimes I would do more than one fire ceremony. But in general, when I was actually in the place where I was like ready to let it go, I had a pretty clear idea of what I was getting rid of. And this doesn't have to just be romantic relationships. This can be any kind of situation that was really stressful. I've known people who've done this with divorces. Known people who've done this at the time of retirement, where they're just ready. If you're closing a chapter in your life, you can use fire to help you do that. Now, to come back to creepy ex-boyfriend, if you didn't see the Instagram post, this is like the little juicy gossip about it. After I finished burning all the little papers with his name on the one side and the emotion I wanted to release on the other, I went back into my house, and like I said, I lived in a basement suite. So you'd go in, there was like a landing, and then you'd go down to my apartment. And so there was this doorway, and I felt him in the little alcove there. And then I stepped through the doorway, and he wasn't there anymore. And there was something about me severing that energetic tie that created a barrier in the threshold, and he wasn't able to get in anymore. And so suddenly I could just be in my apartment without having this like creepy spy vibe that was always on my back before that. And it was so wonderfully liberating. And like I said, it's not just for creepy ex-boyfriends. It's really for anything, any kind of ending that has come up for you that you're ready to let go of. I know people who work with like candle magic. So the color of the candle, like if you were to use a candle rather than just burning them individually, that the color of the candle matters. I do everything with white. When I get to this place, I'm never in a state of like wanting to do harm to anybody else. I'm not wanting to, even when I'm creating that separation between me and this other person, it's never with like malice, right? It's always with love. It's always with light. It's just saying, hey, like the dynamic we have right now, not the healthiest. And so I'm making that separation. So I use white paper when I do this process. I use white candles. And that's just what works for me. I really do encourage you that even though I've kind of given you the spiel about how this all works, I really encourage you to tune into your own intuition and say, okay, great. What is it that Seryna just said that resonates with me? What do I need to tweak to make it work for me? What feels true for me? Because like I said, this wasn't something that I learned. This wasn't something I read about in a book. This was like an innate knowing of get a metal bowl, get some fire, get some white paper, we're going to town. So whatever you do when you're working with fire, of course, do it safely. It's why I had my little glass of water there as a nice little backup plan. And I would bury my little metal bowl in the dirt. Be safe, be smart about it. But it can be such a beautiful tool for you. So if it is something that you incorporate, like jump into my DMs, let me know how it goes. I'm super excited for more people to be working with fire in this way. We often think about it as being so destructive, but it is powerfully cleansing in the most amazing ways. Now, if you want to work with ideas like this around like managing your energy and activating your intuition, all that kind of juicy stuff, you definitely want to make sure that you download my free guide, the Inner Compass Mapping Method, which basically gives you all the things that you need to start having this dialogue with your guides so you can trust your intuition and you can go out and do random rituals and ceremonies all on your own because they just pop into your head and you decide to follow the nudge. Okay, so the link is up in my bio, and that is it for now. So I hope you found this helpful. If you did, definitely let me know. Let me know what you're letting go of, how it felt, and I hope this finds you well. Okay, take care.